Good evening, and welcome to This Week in Lance. I am head anchor, Lance. We start off tonight with our lead story, Life as a Celebrity. For that, we go to field reporter, Lance. And thank you, Lance. Sometimes I often think of what the average day would be like for a celebrity. What do they do? Where do they go? What do they order when they go to Subway? To examine this, I will live a day through the eyes of one of the largest celebrities of the 20th century, Scott Baio. This morning, I woke up to the screaming rants of my drunken neighbor, Erik Estrada. Eventually passed out in my front hedge, clutching his bottle of Zima. I went downstairs where my mail-order bride from China greeted me with a smile and a bowl of Cheerios. Shiku, my wife, hands me my stack of Charles in Charge fan club recruitment flyers to hand out at the local soup kitchen. I grab my keys, jump in the Kia, and head for the mall. Every Monday I go there to stand outside the arcade to see if anyone remembers me from my role as Chachi on Happy Days. I always leave depressed. For lunch, I hit up Subway and ordered an oven-roasted turkey sub, just like Jared Fogle. After Subway, I spend the next 5 hours in the dressing room of an Old Navy, sobbing uncontrollably. Eventually, I head home to my loving wife. I talk her into putting down the knife by threatening deportation. I crawl into bed to watch some reruns of Cop Rock, and then I fall asleep to the soothing sounds of Erik Estrada screaming his favorite Backstreet Boys songs. This has been a day in the life of Scott Baio, brought to you by This Week in Lance. And now, back to you, Lance. Thank you, Lance. That is a very compelling story. We return now with our Life with Lance section. One of our readers writes, I met Lance in high school when I was a sheltered, naive young girl. We were on the school newspaper staff. The entire staff was under 10 people, I think, so all we did was a little of everything. And best yet, we were allowed to work before and after school with no teacher around to make our deadlines. My most vivid memory of Lance during this time was our long conversations to pass the time as we worked. I can accredit Lance for being the first guy I had ever met who was willing to rat out all other guys. I learned so much about guys and the male behavior from conversations with Lance. In return, I tried to do the same for Lance about girls. We would help each other conspire on how to get lucky and with whom. There were also many conversations about the birds and the bees, and that definitely stepped up my sexual education quite a bit. Thank you for writing in, Joanna. Here's to you. And now, a brief word from our sponsors.
The Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battles to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. Transformers, more than meets the eye. Transformers.
Attack the Autobot commander! Call in an Decepticon leader!
Transformers, more than meets the
Transformers, sold separately from Hasbro.
And welcome back. And now, the Week in Review. Monday started off with a 3-hour work meeting. I don't recall the exact details, but I'm sure some stuff was talked about. Later that day, I caught up on my entourage and found myself at the ranch room. There was a new waitress there who actually asked for my card when opening my tab. Clearly, she did not know who I was, so I informed her that I'm kind of a big deal and that people knew me. I had to give her my card anyway. Tuesday, I watched the classic movie Alien while eating some chicken legs and broccoli cheese soup. It was a themed meal. Wednesday was packed full of adventure. It started off with me calling tech support to ask a simple question. She informed me that the software was unable to complete this task, but offered another solution. She began to inform me that I should click a certain button. When I told her that this button was not available, she suggested I then choose the Add Task button. I informed her that that button also did not exist in my world. After that, she continued to inform me on what to do after I clicked the button. I'm not entirely certain she was using the same software as me, but I applaud her knowledge of it, as well as her ability to know the term "I don't have that fucking button." Here's to you, tech support lady. On Wednesday, part 2, I watched Elf in the evening because late June is the perfect time for a Christmas movie. Later that night, terror struck in the form of a giant moth. It initiated first strike as it buzzed me while I was at my computer. I knew it was war. I grabbed the nearest weapon I could, which turned out to be my car insurance bill. The battle was long fought. I got a few hits in, but it did not seem phased as it continued its kamikaze-like dives around my head. But the battle changed. As it landed for the ground, I busted out my epic soccer skills. I kicked a box in its direction. I hit it head on. I did not see it again, but I could not find the body. It may still lay there, sitting and waiting. I may have won the battle, but the war is not yet over. On Thursday, my coworker shared with the office her beaver pics. As you'd imagine, it was your standard beaver, furry, wet. It was relatively nice, but the picture was not very focused. Surprisingly, her dog did not scare the beaver, but was rather intrigued by it. It was the first time she'd been near a beaver that close in her house. I told her she should name it Carl. Friday, I went to lunch with a friend as well as balanced a ruler on top of a pen. Later, I rewarded myself with a Mountain Dew after a long, hard week of staying awake while at work. Friday night, I went out for Thai food and watched Willy Wonka. Good times were had. Saturday was another jam-packed day. It started off with shopping for swimsuits, but I came home empty-handed. Officially, I set up my laptop for karaoke to go. I also had some beers in front of the sign with some out-of-town friends. And I went down to Dos Padres for a Mondo beer and apparently a double screwdriver. Then discovered someone tried to steal our sign later in the night. They were not successful, but they were able to pull it down. Thanks to the high-quality construction, the only damage was to 2 trim pieces which fell off, which is easily fixed. Damn degenerate inbreds. I finished off the night by going to the Adric place for some more beers. Sunday was spent relaxing. I went for a jog in the morning, then hit up some great free samples at Food Pavilion. Did some barbecuing, and ended up with a mild sunburn. Overall, I give this week a 7.37 out of 10. Ranch room count, 1. And now it's time for the This Week in Lance question of the week. Today's question is, what is my favorite cheap beer? And the answer to last week's question, my freshman Halloween costume was a Playboy bunny. I would also like to mention that I won first prize as well as the Skank Award. I attribute my victory to the prosthetic nipples. It all comes down to the details. The winner of this question of the week had this to say, I never thought I would win one of these, so I didn't bother entering, until now. Thank you, Jen. If you have a comment or a story you would like to submit to This Week in Lance, I invite you to do so. And until next time, have you seen my pants?